Hey guys, welcome to Bloggers United. Welcome to another video, and today is time to make that video about what is Cruyffism, what is the way that Cruyff taught us to play football, and it's not only a way to play football in the pitch, but also how to do things off it, how things need to be run, who needs to be in charge, what profile of players do we need, what kind of, how are we supposed to play, how are we supposed to play defensively with the ball and off the ball, offensively with the ball and off the ball, how to maintain high levels of possession, maintain a high press, high intensity game, high concentration, using a youth player, trusting our youth player. The coach needs to be the leader of the project, the head of the project. They need to be in charge of every decision that we make, and so many other things. And let's get started with the most important thing, and that is that in the way that Johan Cruyff taught us to play football is to be just basically ourselves, be respecting the sporting model to the dot, doing everything that you're supposed to do. Don't even change a thing, because, or at least don't, you can put, like, every coach is gonna add their own thing to the way of playing Cruyffism. Like, there's no one way to execute it, but there surely is a way to do it, like respecting some guidelines that you have to. Like I said before, good levels of possession, high movement of the ball, like 1 or 2 touches and the ball should be off the player, not like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 touches and then release the ball, because that gives the opponent space and time to press the side of the field and get us less space so we can attack it, and then we cannot be as creative and going forward when we're trying to attack teams on the break. So we need a coach who is the leader of the project, who is the head of the project. And before I get started with everything else, let me just remind you that all the Champions League, like this thing about winning the Champions League, well, let me remind you that Barcelona has never, and I repeat, has never won a Champions League trophy on its own. Barcelona, in order to win a Champions League trophy, they had to have won another trophy, mostly La Liga, and mostly trebles. So what does it tell you? This tells you that as a collective, Barcelona need to be the best team in the world to win the Champions League. That's the only way we can win the Champions League. Some other teams don't have to be the best team in the world to win the Champions League, but we do. We have to be at our best in every game, and that's how we win it. If we're not, then things like Liverpool happen, things like Atletico Madrid happen, like Juventus, like Paris, like Roma, and so many other examples happen. When if you're not at the best, you're Barcelona, you're not at the best, you are gonna lose, because this is just the way that it is. We are either the best or we are not. And let's just start by the way that Johan Cruyff taught us this, and it started all in 1990, the season of 1990, when it started working, when everything started working smoothly. We played very well. We had a leader of the project who was Johan Cruyff. He did not hesitate to make decisions. He had the player that he wanted. He put trust in the youth players. He promoted players like Guardiola and some others. Like, he put trust in the young players, and he was able to get the best out of the squad of what he had. He wasn't signing superstar signing after superstar signing every single season. Players, like, there's no coincidence that the best coaches in our history are the ones that have respected the model the best. Luis Enrique, Guardiola, Johan Cruyff, and Rijkaard. They're arguably our 4 best coaches, and they have all respected the model. Their most successful periods when they were respecting the model. When we got somewhere away from the sporting model, that's when things started going wrong. And that's somewhere, because we were respecting some things, but some other things we were changing, and that's what happens when you're not doing everything how you're supposed to. Then you start getting beat up by other teams, because our way of playing is very peculiar compared to others. Like some other teams are fine with just in moments of trouble just launch the ball up high of the field and move the lines up and make a high press. But for us is like we're always trying like kicking the ball out just to like get a pressure is a thing you do when it's a clear sign that you're gonna lose the ball. If there is a pass that you can make to a player, you make that pass, because the idea, and this makes all the sense in the world, is that Cruyff always said that if I have the ball, you don't. And it's basically a very like normal thing to like understand. If I have the ball, you don't. Meaning that if I have the ball, I'm dictating how the ball is moving. I'm dictating what you're doing because I have more levels of possession than you are. Therefore, I'm dictating where you can get the ball. And if I can have the ball in good positions and generate good amount of situations, then you are gonna be at a disadvantage because you're gonna be having to counter us from really far deep into your own half, and we're gonna be constantly attacking and making your players tired and lose concentration, because eventually that's what happens. So we are dictating the play by having the ball, but it's not only having the ball. It's not only having because you can have the ball and have the defensive possession, which is, for example, what happened against Valencia. Barcelona had most of the possession in that game, but we have very defensive possession. Because we didn't have the possession in virtue of ourselves, we had the possession because Valencia were happy to give us the possession and then hit us on the counter. If we were structured, we would have the possession in such a way that there was no way that Valencia would be able to take the ball away from us, because we were moving the ball so fastly between midfielders, defenders and forwards that the other teams don't have any chance to go at a moment and press us, because we are distributing the lines and breaking lines, having players that are breaking in between the lines and abusing this space, looking always for the open space, for the open man. And that is what Cruyffism is. Like, when it's not just a fancy way of playing, it's just not a very stylistic, a very pleasurable way of looking at football. It's also, for me, the most effective way of playing football, and our history tells you that. We have won so many titles in the past 30 years in comparison to any other team in world football. And whoever says that Madrid has more Champions League than Barcelona, well, Barcelona has more league titles and Copa del Rey than Real Madrid in that period. So, and that's counting that we had a horrible period. Like, we've had horrible periods where we've won in 0 titles in some of the seasons. Like, we had Tata Martino that year, we had the 2 last years of Rijkaard, we had 3 years of after Nunez left, of Gaspar. We had those years that were horrible. Like, we've had bad periods, but even between that, we are so far ahead, better than everyone else titles wise. And I think that that's really important to recognize. Now, I mentioned the possession, I've mentioned the high press. Having high levels of press means that you can get the ball quicker, and if you're organized, you should be able to press another team and haunt them like a pack of wolves, meaning that they should be suffocated to the point where they're going to be releasing the ball and we're going to make a mistake in the passing and we're able to take the ball away from them. The same thing with the intensity. The most important thing to play any style of football is having intensity, being concentrated. That's the one thing that cannot miss ever. If you don't have intensity, if you don't have concentration, there is no way of playing that will make you win. You cannot win that game if your team is not concentrated. If your team is not concentrated and it's not intense, then your players are going to be moving slower, whichever the way be. But especially for the Barcelona way of doing things, which you need to be extremely fast mentally, physically, to be able to take the decisions that you need to before you get the ball. Like, a good Barcelona player is a player that knows where the pass is going before he gets the ball. Like 2 or 3 passes before he gets the ball, he already knows where the ball is supposed to go to. Using our youth academy, our youth players, there is this misconception that, and I think that's because, and it's obvious why it's happened, because we had a golden era where we haven't had a lot of starters coming from La Masia. But if we look at La Masia before, that didn't used to be the case. and La Masia was always treated as a way of getting substitutes, of getting your bench players. For bench players, that's what La Masia should be used for. And if you're able to generate a talent that it's good enough to play in the first team and start for you, then fine, that's fantastic. But if not, I'm sure that you'll generate 1 or 2 players per season that will be able to give you something in that tactically that you need. And if you have it already with you, why would you go off the road and sign it for more money? And they will be also earning more wages. So trusting in the youth, trusting in the players that we've formed, because they're also players. Not only they're gonna be earning less wages and we don't have to pay a transfer fee for them, but they love the city. They've been with us for years. They know our way of playing. They don't have to adapt to our playstyle because from our youth ranks, they've been playing the same way forever. So that means that whenever they come to the first team, they know they're gonna they know they should be able to succeed. Like, at least if they're at a good level. I'm not saying that you should be playing any player just for the sake of it. No, if they're at a good level, you give them an opportunity, and if they end up working, fine. If they don't end up working, you move on. If you need to sign players, then you sign players. But if you don't need to, if you have something that can do the work for you in La Masia, then you use that player. Like, La Masia is a ground to get the players that you need for your squad, that you don't, that then, like, let's put it this way, you only sign players if you don't have them at La Masia. If you have 22 first team players in La Masia, you don't go and sign. I mean, if you have 22 players that all suit the qualities that you need for every role in the squad, you don't go ahead and sign any players because you already have them with you. Do they necessarily have to be the best in the world? No, they don't have to. At Barcelona, we are not a team that is winning by virtue of having the best players. But what I mean by that is it's not that we've not had some of the best players in history in the sport, because it's not true. We've had some of the best in history, but we've made them the best in history. Mainly, their role at Barcelona, their time at Barcelona, is what has made them legends. Ronaldinho, before coming to Barcelona, was not close to what he ended up being in world football. Messi, without Guardiola, I don't think he would have ended up being as great of a player as he was after Pep Guardiola. The likes of, Neymar, Luis Suarez, like all these players that before Barcelona were not even close to what they end up being, like Samuel Eto'o, David Villa. All these players are great players before they came to Barcelona, but now they're some of the best players in history because they were Barcelona, because they were successful with Barcelona. So we've made them legends. They have not made us who we are, we've made them who they are. We also need people taking very few decisions in the board. Like, we have the president should be hiring a sporting director, and the sporting director and the coach mainly should be taking all decisions transfer wise, who goes in and who goes out. The coach needs to be taking the decisions that suits him the best. If he needs to take a player of the squad because he has won too much and he's really not committed to give all that you need, then you need to give him the power to get those players out, because the coach depends on winning. The players do not depend on winning. The players, if they fail, they can try again next season, or they can move to another team for maybe even more money. But if the coach fails, then his neck is on the line. The player's neck is never on the line. So we should always trust in the coach, because his interest is winning. The player's interest is not winning. The player's interest is earning money. That they want to win in top of earning money, that's something different. But the coach first thing mentality is that he needs to win, because if he doesn't succeed, if he doesn't reach the goal that is set by the club, then he's gonna get sacked. The squads need to be of a correct size, and what I mean by that is what I've said before. You need about 18 to 20 starters, or you need like 14 starters, then 4 more squad players that are gonna be able to fill in some gaps, and then you put that remaining space with like the 21 to 23 players that you need. 3 or 4 of those should be from La Masia. You should be giving some of the players a chance, 1 per line maybe. one defender, one forward, one midfielder, and so on and so forth. You give players every year a chance. Whoever works for you, you're fine. You promote them to the first team, and whoever doesn't work for you, you let go and move on to the next one. And that is how you respect the sporting model. You do all of these things, and you'll succeed at Barcelona will succeed. If you don't do these things, then Anfield, Roma, Turin, Paris, Madrid, all these things happen to you because you're not respecting the way of doing things. And most importantly, and last thing I wanted to say is that look at history. If you were doing things a certain way and it was working for you, then why would you go ahead and change the way that you were doing things to something completely different, which is probably the opposite of what you were used to doing before? And what would you do such a thing? If you were clearly winning with this thing, why are you changing if you don't need to? There is this idea that I've heard that the way of Barcelona playing is not as efficient anymore. You need more physical bodies. You need more high press. You need more pacey players, more stronger, taller players to dominate midfield. That is not true. That is completely not true, because the trophies are there, the titles are there. That Manchester City is winning trophies without Lionel Messi, without Xavi, and without Iniesta. They are playing with some great players, but they're not some of the best players in the world, or at least not completely the best players in the world, and they're doing an amazing job. Pep Guardiola's been doing an amazing job with Manchester City. So let's respect the model and let's do things the way we used to. This is in my opinion what the Cruyffism is. And leave me your opinions in the comment section below about what you think the Cruyffism is. Do you think that that's the way that we should be taking things going forward? And we all said and done, leave me your comment in the comment section below. Comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Blaugranas.